week talking about al-Shafi'i rahimahullah. And the focus, as you can see here, is not about the life of al-Shafi'i. When we concentrate or examine these personalities, we're not really talking about their whole life, where they were born, where they died, how did they learn. We didn't really do this. But what we're talking about, an extraction from their life, some of the things that they have said, some of the things that they have done, in what Ibn al-Jawzi rahimahullah has included in Sifatul Safwa. So it's not everything about them, but some lessons and some wisdom and benefits from their lives. And one of the last things that we've said before we move to something new, just to connect what we said last to today, Man talaba al-riyasata farrat minhu. So he said, rahimahullah, the one who seeks leadership, meaning generally power, the one who runs after it, it runs away from him. Why? Because his intention is not pure. But if Allah Azza wa Jal wants the best for that person, right? If not, then Allah will leave him to his choices. But if Allah wants the best for that person and his intention is, I want power for the sake of what? Power. Then the best thing for that person is not to get it, right? It's not to get it, not to become powerful, not to become a leader, and not to be known or famous. If he wants fame for the sake of fame, fame for the sake of fame is very dangerous and it's very corrupting. If a person wants to become famous, let's say, or a leader, because they want to do something good with it and through it, yeah. But then they don't really want fame. Fame becomes what? A vehicle. So it could happen some other way. But fame in itself is not the goal. Or power itself is not the goal. They become a vehicle for you to do something good. So if Allah doesn't give it, it's fine. You don't need it because you could reach your goals some other way. Allah could decide or destine that you could reach your goals some other way. But if you want leadership for the sake of leadership and power and to be above people, is the best thing for you is for that to run away from you. Right? And then he says in connection to it, وَإِذَا تَصَدَّرَ الْحَدَثِ فَاتَهُ عِلْمٌ كَثِيرٌ. He says if a young man or a young woman assumes leadership, assumes the center of a halaqah, okay, then he says a lot of knowledge will escape him because now he doesn't have time for it. He doesn't have time to learn. So if he becomes a teacher, before being qualified to be a teacher, of course he's going to make a lot of mistakes. And of course, right, he is not going to have time to learn what he is supposed to learn, and he doesn't have the wisdom yet and the experience yet to lead. So what happens to him is that a lot of knowledge will escape him. A lot of wisdom will escape him. A lot of what he needs to learn is not going to be available to him anymore. The next saying, now this is new. What we just mentioned wasn't, but this is new. And a bit lengthy. But this is what al-Shafi'i rahimahullah says to Yunus ibn Abd al-A'la. He's advising him on how to treat a friend. And if there is a miscommunication between you and your friend, or you hear something you dislike about him, how you're supposed to behave and why you should behave in this way. So he says, Ya Yunus, he says, إِذَا بَلَغَكَ عَنْ صَدِيقٍ لَكَ مَا تَكْرَهُهُ فَإِيَّاكَ أَن تُبَادِرَهُ بِالْعَدَاوَةِ وَقَطْعِ الْوِلَايَةِ. He says, if you hear something about your friend that you hate, you dislike, like what? He said something about you that you hate, an insult, called you a name, accused you of something. You hear that about him, not from him, you hear that about him. It says, don't rush and become an enemy and sever your friendship with him just based on hearsay. فتكون ممن أزال يقينه بشك. So you'll be like a person who had demolished certainty with doubt. Because the certain part is that he's your friend. If it's hearsay that he said or did, that's not certain. So that's doubt. So he says if you're going to destroy certainty with doubt, then you're going to destroy something valuable. And Islamically, you're not allowed to do this anyway. Right? Islamically, the yaqeen needs another yaqeen. Certainty is only removed by another certainty. But doubt does not remove certainty. And that's an Islamic principle. You know, like what's an application of that Islamic principle? So for instance, if you have wudu, and you're certain that you have wudu, then you suspect, did I invalidate it or not? Now, with that suspicion, is your wudu invalid? No. Why? Because as we said, that's the principle. Suspicion does not remove certainty. Only certainty removes certainty. So if you're certain that your wudu had become invalid, then you don't have wudu anymore. So he said, I doubt, I may have done this, I may have touched that, I may. He says, if it's only I may and you just doubt and you're not sure, your wudu is still valid. Okay? So here, if you know you have a friend and you have some suspicion that he may said this or that, he said Islamically, that suspicion is not allowed and should not allow to grow, to remove that certainty of his friendship. وَلَكِنْ إِلْقَهِ, he says, but meet him and tell him, such and such has reached me about you. And he says, but don't name the person who conveyed that to you. So he said what now? He said, rather than let this suspicion fester, confront. And not confront to chastise and condemn, no, to find what the truth is. So he says, I've heard this and that, but don't tell him who told you, because that is going to create more problems. He says, I've heard this and that. He says, فَإِنْ أَنْكَرَ ذَلك, he says, if he denies it, tell him, أَنْتَ أَصْدَقُ وَأَبَرُّ. He says, you are more honest and more trustworthy. I mean, you are to me more pious and more honest. Meaning, if you ask him, did you say this or do that? And he says no, if he is your friend, believe him. And let that be the end of it. And don't listen to any suspicion or gossip. قال ولا تزيدن على ذلك. He says, don't say anything else other than that. Just believe him and then move on. Okay. وإن اعترف بذلك. He says, if he confesses, قال فرأيت له وجها لعذر فاقبل منه. He says, if he confesses, he says, yes, I did this, or yes, I said that. He says, if you can think within yourself for an excuse for him, why he said this or did that, accept that excuse within you and move on. So he tells you, I did this, I said that. He says, okay, and you say, maybe there is an excuse for him, and this is the excuse, and you can accept it within you. Okay, accept it and move on. Don't ask him for anything else. قال فإن لم تر ذلك فقل له. He says, if you can't find an excuse within you to look for, ask him, why did you do this? قال فإن ذكر لك ما له وجه من العذر فاقبل منه. He says, so if you ask him, why did you say this? After searching within yourself for an excuse, finding none, he says, ask him for an excuse. Why did you do this? And he says, if he offers an excuse and it's convincing, accept it. And he says, if you cannot, even after he offers it, cannot find a reason for him to do this, and it's really his fault, قال فأثبت عليه سيئة. Then consider it to be a mistake that he has done, a sin that he has done. Then he says, then you have a choice. If you want, you can punish him in a way equal to what he has done. And if you want, you can forgive him. And forgiveness is closer to taqwa. So he says, now, since if it's a sin, punish him if you wish, or forgive him if you wish, and forgiveness is better. And it's closer to generosity. And then Allah Azza wa Jal says, وَجَزَاءُ سَيِّئَةٍ سَيِّئَةٌ مِثْلُهَا. He says the punishment for a sin is a sin equal to it, but the one who forgives and rectifies, his recompense, his compensation is with Allah Azza wa Jal. Do you understand what this ayah is telling you? That this ayah is telling you, if you want to punish for something bad that had happened to you, punish. But if you forgive and you rectify with that forgiveness, then who is going to reward you? Who's going to compensate you? Allah Azza wa Jal. He says, don't worry about you missing out. Don't worry about you not getting your right. No, forgive. And then whatever you need is with Allah Azza wa Jal. As if Allah is telling you what? Forgive and I'll take care of you. Right? And you can assume when Allah tells you, I'll take care of you, how much He will give. And this tells you how much Allah loves forgiveness. Forgive and I will take care of you. Forgive and I will give you. So rather than you taking your own right, which is what? Limited. And it soon ends. Like somebody hits you, you hit him back. It's over. But Allah says, no, don't hit back and forgive. And He says, I will give you. Well, that will last. The giving of Allah lasts. But if you take your right with your own hand, that is not going to last. And generally, it doesn't lead to good results. قال فإن زعتك نفسك بالمكافأة. He says, but if afterwards you still want to punish him, even after this ayah, after understanding all of this, فاذكر فيما سبق له لديك من الإحسان فعدها. It says, if you want to punish him for this one sin that he has done, remember all the good things that he had done previously and count them. ثم ابذل له إحسانا بهذه السيئة. Then instead of, punishing him, give him something good in return for that bad thing that he has done, because of all the good things that he had done previously. You see what he's doing? Is if he has done something bad, and you know that it is bad, don't stop and think about this one bad thing that he has done, but try to remember all the other good things that he has done, so that your judgment is balanced. And this is not just about friends, this is about relationships in general. About your wife, about your husband, about your kids, about your parents, about your relatives. Don't just remember this last bad thing that they have done and forget all the good things that they have done throughout your relationship with them. So do something good to him because of the good that he had done in the past, and don't discredit him or disregard all the good that he has done because of this one bad thing, because this is injustice. Then he says at the end, he says, Yunus, if you have a friend, hold on to him, because finding a friend is difficult and breaking up that friendship is easy. Breaking up a marriage is easy. He says, do you say to your wife, I divorce you, it's done, right? Or the wife says, I want to be divorced, and then she asks for it, and the husband gives it, it's done. But building a marriage takes years and years. You can break it in a second. You can break it in a day. So it says, similarly, right? We complain today that we don't have friends, right? Like it's rare to have a good friend today. So Shafi'i, from that time, he's telling you, yes, it is hard to have a good friend. A friend that will bring you closer to Allah, that is rare. So if you find one like that, don't give him up so easily. Don't sacrifice him so easily. Hold on to him and try to find excuses to him and try to forgive and try to rectify so that you keep him as a friend and he keeps you as a friend, because everybody makes a mistake. And if you are going to be a person who is going to count every mistake that so-and-so does, you're not going to have friends. In fact, you're not going to have anyone who is going to like you. If every time somebody does a mistake, you catch him and you say, remember that mistake that you have done, remember that slip, remember that, he's not going to want to be around you. But if you're the kind of person who recognizes people for who they are and that they sometimes slip and sometimes they make mistake, but in your final judgment, you weigh everything justly and you find the good things compared to the bad things, and you allow people to make mistakes but also make amends for them, then you'll keep people around you. Right? So though it is long, but it progressively tells you what to do. In the beginning, don't believe gossip. Don't believe hearsay. And if you can dismiss it, dismiss it. If you can't, then the best thing to do is to go and ask him, not in a confrontational way, but I heard this and that, and I want my heart to be clear towards you. Is that true? And if he says no, he says, I believe you. If he says yes, well, say to yourself, I can think of an excuse for him. Okay, fine. We don't have to talk about it. And you let it go. It's bugging you. You ask him, why did you say this? He offers a good excuse. You accept it. He doesn't offer a good excuse, consider it to be a sin. And then Shafi'i says, you want to punish, but be just in your punishment. But if you want to forgive, that's even better. That is how you're supposed to treat people. And as Allah Azza wa Jal says, وَمَا يُلَقَّاهَا إِلَّا الَّذِينَ صَبَرُوا. Only those who are lucky enough to be patient will be given that wisdom. Okay. He says, rahimahullah, he says, الانقباض على الناس مكسبة للعداوة. He says, if you isolate yourself from people, you foster hostility with them. But he says, وَالْإِنْبِسَاطُ إِلَيْهِمْ مَجْلَبَةٌ لِقُرَنَاءِ السُّوءِ. He says, but you over-socialize, you will earn bad friends and bad company. فَكُنْ بَيْنَ الْمُنْقَبِضِ وَالْمُنْبَسِطِ. Be in the middle between someone who has isolated himself and someone who over-socializes. So he says, if you over-socialize, you get what? Bad friends and bad company. You slip into sin. You slip into the haram. And you don't need that much. Okay? If you're not discriminate in terms of who am I sitting with? Who am I talking to? Who am I texting? Who's texting me? What group have I joined? You don't not discriminate about any of that. It says, okay, that is going to hurt you. And he says, but if you go to the extreme and you isolate yourself completely, no one is going to care about you. And he says, some of them may actually feel alienated. I call him, he doesn't call. I ask, he doesn't ask. I don't want his friendship. I don't want to answer his phone calls. I don't want to be around him. So it's not this and not that, but seek a middle path. Not to go to an extreme here and not to go to an extreme there, but socialize as much as it benefits you and it benefits other people. Once it crosses into wasting time or hurting you or hurting others, you got to stop. And again, you need Allah Azza wa Jal to help you there. That is, whenever you're confused about where do I stop, ask Allah Azza wa Jal. Ya Allah, give me the best and allow me to escape from bad company. Protect me from it. He says, somebody, while al-Shafi'i was sitting, تنقص Muhammad ibn al-Hasan. So Muhammad ibn al-Hasan, he is the student of Abu Hanifa, rahimahullah. He's a alim. So someone while with al-Shafi'i, he criticized Muhammad ibn al-Hasan while al-Shafi'i was present. And al-Shafi'i and Muhammad al-Hasan sometimes had debates between each other, fiqhi debates and usuli debates. So Shafi'i said, he said, stop. لَقَدْ تَلَمَّضْتَ بِمُضْغَةٍ طَالَمَ لَفَظَهَا الْكِرَامِ. He says, stop. You are chewing something the honorable never chew. He's telling him what? Is that you're chewing something. What is he chewing? The meat of his brother. Is that you're chewing something the real noble people never chew. So he says you're eating his meat behind his back, that is backbiting, and that's not an honorable thing to do. So even sometimes, and they were not enemies, God forbid, al-Shafi'i and Muhammad ibn al-Hasan, but even sometimes when you have a debate with someone, and when you have a debate with someone, you tend to want people to put them down, right? Because they're your opponents. So imagine yourself having an argument with so-and-so. And he is on opposite sides. And you still feel a bit bitter about that argument. And then someone in your presence criticizes him. You tend to what? Feel good about it. Because why? Because I already, feel bad because he tried to defeat me and I tried to defeat him. So somebody else had put him down, which is exactly what I feel. So good. So you let it go. And you may smile. Or at least if not, internally, you're happy with it. Because now I'm higher. Somebody else agrees with me. I feel I'm better. And somebody now agrees with me. But he says no. And that's, subhanAllah, from his justice and from his sensitivity and his taqwa. He says, no, this is something that the honorable never chew, never mention, never talk about. So you don't criticize somebody else behind his back. And that's, if you want something to motivate you to say this, or at least to stop a person, or not to associate with such a person, is to believe that if someone like that is going to criticize someone behind his back, in your presence, in your absence, he may do the same to you when he's angry with you. So if I like you and you like me, I'm not going to say anything bad about you. But if we dislike a third person in common, yeah, we may talk about him. But if I don't have within myself a barrier to stop me from backbiting, if I fight with you later and you're not around, I'll criticize you like I criticized. So when you backbite, you're showing what? Your habit. That you have a habit and you have a tendency. And if you don't want that to turn on you, you got to stop that person and tell him that he needs to. Or you're the next target. You're the next target. Or at least it's part of Allah's justice that as you accepted backbiting, somebody else is going to do it to you because you've accepted it. So stop a person when he backbites. Perhaps when that happens to you and you're not there, Allah will send somebody to stop it. So as you defend the believers, Allah will what? Defend you. As you defend the believers, Allah will defend you. So defend the believers, defend those who are wronged, and Allah will defend you when you are wrong as well. He says also, rahimahullah, he's speaking to Rabi'. Rabi' is his student. He says, Ya Rabi', رِضَ النَّاسِ غَايَةٌ لَا تُدْرَكْ. He says, pleasing people is an impossibility. فَعَلَيْكَ بِمَا يُصْلِحُكَ فَالْزَمْهُ فإنه لا سبيل إلى رضاهم. He says, then consider what benefits you, what is good for you, and hold on to it, because you cannot make them happy. That's kind of like this eternal wisdom that tells you if you try to make people happy, you're going to fail. Because no one, is going to be happy with you all the time. So if I'm going to try to make all of you here happy, or you look at people around you in your life and you're going to try to make everybody with you happy at the same time, he says you won't be able to. Because there will always be people who will be displeased with something that you've said and something that you have done. If you please those people, you're going to upset those. And if you please those, you're going to upset those. So it doesn't happen. So he says, what should you do? He says, then consider what benefits you, not what pleases people. What benefits you, and hold on to that. That's your real compass, not pleasing people. Because if I listen to them, what should I do? Those people tell me do A. But wait, but those people are telling me to do B. Who should I please? Where would I go? Who comes first? You can't. Okay, do this. No, this is halal. No, do this. This is haram. Oh no, this is right. Oh no, this is wrong. Who do I listen to? He says you can't let people decide. Okay? Because that's going to make you miserable. Confused, but also miserable. But rather, consider what is good for you, and who tells you what's good for you? Allah Azza wa Jal, right? Really, one who tells you what's good for you is Allah. Consider what's good for you and hold on to it. That's the best thing. He says, وَعْلَمْ أَنَّهُ مَنْ تَعَلَّمَ الْقُرْآنَ جَلَّ فِي عُيُونِ النَّاسِ. He says, and know that the one who learns the Qur'an would gain respect in people's eyes. If he learns it, meaning memorizes it, understands it, he'll gain respect in people's eyes. وَمَنْ تَعَلَّمَ الْحَدِيثَ قَوِيَتْ حُجَّتُهُ. And the one who learns hadith, his argument or ability, or the proofs he can introduce into his arguments will be stronger. So he'll be better, I want to say debater, but if he debates or argues, he'll be a better debater. وَمَنْ تَعَلَّمَ النَّحْوَ هِيب. And he says, if you learn grammar, people will respect you. Okay, because of the level of knowledge that you will have. وَمَنْ تَعَلَّمَ الْعَرَبِيَّةَ رَقَّ طَبْعُهُ. And the one who learns Arabic, meaning the eloquence of the Arabic language, he'll gain softness of nature. Because the Arabic language, if you learn its eloquence, it will pass through poetry, right? And prose that in itself are gentle. So he says you'll acquire some of that gentleness. So subhanAllah, learning language can do also that to you. وَمَنْ تَعَلَّمَ الْحِسَابَ. And if you learn math, your opinion will be more accurate, or you'll be more succinct or precise. وَمَنْ تَعَلَّمَ الْفِقْهَ نَبُلَ قَدْرُهُ. You will become noble when you learn fiqh. وَمَنْ يَمَصُ نَفْسَهُ لَمْ يَنْفَعُ عِلْمُهُ. He says, and the one who does not protect himself, his knowledge is not going to help him. Meaning, yes, you're going to learn all of this, but ultimately, what are you supposed to do with all of that? To protect yourself with it. So he says, if you're not protecting yourself, that knowledge is not beneficial. And we talked about that before, if you remember. The knowledge is supposed to move you into A and B and C. It's not supposed to be something you just know and do nothing with. So he says, if you do not protect yourself from haram and from sin, then what is this knowledge for? So on the one hand, he's giving you the benefit of knowledge and what he's going to give to you. Learning Quran gives you this, learning hadith gives you this, learning fiqh, learning grammar, learning the Arabic language, learning math, it gives you this. And subhanAllah, here's some deep insight from him. That is, every knowledge that you learn, and now you can even add more and more to it. Physics, chemistry, right? Whatever. He says, learn it, it will give you something. Learn it, it will give you something, it will change you. So every field has its foundations. And, tools of research and tools of inquiry and looking at the world and expressions of what you know. So when you study it, you really study it, it molds you and you become slightly a different person or significantly a different person based on what you study. You see, like sometimes the lawyers talk differently, right? And the engineers think differently, and mathematicians look at the world differently. It's the same thing. So knowledge gives you branches of knowledge, they shape you and mold you differently. So he's telling you, okay, from his vantage point, which is absolutely accurate, he says, if you do this, it'll give you this. It'll give you that, do that, or it'll give you something different. He says, but then after you learn it, you're supposed to protect yourself with what you have learned, otherwise, what is it for? Right? قال وملاك ذلك كله التقوى. Okay, and the thing that is comprehensively brings all this together is taqwa. If you have taqwa, then this knowledge has benefited you. He says also, rahimahullah, al-labib al-aqil, he wants to teach you who is wise and intelligent. He says, huwa al-fatinu al-mutaghafil, the one who is fatin, alert, but mutaghafir, overlooks mistakes. Because mutaghafil or ghafla, right? Ghafla is to be unaware. And some person could have ghafla naturally, meaning that he's naive. Things happen around him, he doesn't know. People say things, but he's not quick to catch it. They imply, but he's not sharp to know what they want. That's naive. And it's not bad all the time, right? Sometimes it's good to be created naive. That's fine. But they say, who's really wise? The one who's alert, meaning that he knows what you're saying. He catches it, right? He's very intelligent. But he chooses to overlook. He chooses to overlook. Somebody says something bad to him, and if he wants, he could reply. He says, I've heard you say this, and I know exactly what you mean, and this is the reply I want to give to you. There are some people who are very alert. They catch it very quickly. But he says, one who is really wise, he lets things go. That not every time your wife or your husband says something, you need to comment on it. I caught you say something wrong, and I need to punish you for it. Not every time. Sometimes you just need to let what? Just let it go. Because if you let it go, you suppress evil. If you let it go, it's not a fight. If you let it go, that person, maybe on their own, they'll realize, why did I say this stupid thing? Good thing they didn't hear that. Good thing they didn't see this. And so they can fix their own selves. But if you're going to hold one person responsible for every small thing that they're saying, because you're smart and alert, you'll be fighting with everybody. So at-taghaful, to act as if you are naive, to act as if you didn't see and notice, is actually noble. And Ahmad ibn Hanbal considered it to be 9/10 of good manners. 9/10 of good manners, meaning consider yourself above the trivial. So I'm not going to sink to this level, turn away from it. I'm not going to turn away from slight insults, slight, miscommunications, slight actions, that wrong actions that are, advanced towards. It says, rise above it, taghafal, and allow people to fix those mistakes and notice the bad things that they have done, but don't catch them with everything that they have done and decide to punish them or embarrass them because of it. He says here, rahimahullah, he's talking about in muru'ah, in these next two sayings. And muru'ah is nobility. Muru'ah is for a person to be fully human. Comes from mar, to be a person, like a gentleman. Think about it as being gentleman. But rather than being a noble, not noble because you're from a noble descent, coming from royalty. No, noble because you're noble. Noble because you're above the frivolous and the trivial. Noble because you're Muslim who is a slave of Allah Azza wa Jal. So you do not demean yourself. And you always aim to be better and better. So he says, rahimahullah, لو علمت أن الماء البارد ينقص من مرأتي ما شربته. He says, if I know that cold water will take away from my nobility and respect that I have for myself and the respect that people have for me, this is what muru'ah is, will take away from my nobility, I would never drink it. Yeah? It doesn't, right? It doesn't. But he says, if cold water, right, which is, on a hot day, that's the only thing you want. He says, if I know that this thing is something ignoble, it takes away from demeans me, I would never drink it. And that is from his strength and honor, rahimahullah. He said, I will never do something to dishonor me, even if it is something I want. I will never do it. And this is how he considered himself, rahimahullah. And in fact, every Muslim is supposed to consider himself like that. If there is anything dishonorable, I will not do it. I'm not talking about haram. Haram is dishonorable. But there are things that in the eyes of people, they could be dishonorable. He says, if they are dishonorable, in the eyes of people. And again, we're talking about a category above haram, different. It says, if it's dishonorable, I'm not going to do it. Okay? Yani, for instance, they considered it at one point, eating in the marketplace, they consider it to be dishonorable. Not today, right? But if you're in a society that considers it to be dishonorable to eat in the marketplace, you won't. I'm not telling you haram, but people look down on a person who does that. It says you do not demean yourself. Okay, if you litter, throw garbage in the street, is it dishonorable or not if a person sees it? Dishonorable. He says if there's anything dishonorable, it's going to take away from the respect that people should have for me, demeans me in my own eyes, and then in the eyes of people, I'll never do it. He says if it's something halal, and I like it and I love it, but it's going to dishonor me, I'm not going to do it. So he says something else here. He says, ليس من المروءة أن يخبر الرجل بسنه سأل رجل مالكا عن سنه فقال أقبل على شأنك. He says, it is not from nobility that a person reveals his age. Probably the first time you've heard this. Okay. So, it says it's not of nobility that a person would reveal his age. Someone asked Malik once, Malik is his teacher, Malik ibn Anas, asked Malik once, how old are you? He says, أقبل على شأنك. He says, concern yourself with your own affairs. Right? Like, what are you asking? Right? And that's part of actually the education that Malik, rahimahullah, was giving his students. You can't approach your teacher and just ask him these silly questions. Oh, how old are you? Where do you come from? Where were you? He says, أقبل على شأنك. Concern yourself with what is beneficial. I'm not here to reveal my personal life to you. How is this going to help you? Or advance anything, right? So not every question needs to be answered. And Malik rahimahullah, he'd answer it in a very direct way that if we were to do this today, we'd say, oh, like that, look at that shaykh and look at this, how harsh he is, right? But Malik is direct. He says, none of your business. In the sense he told you, none of your business. Okay, keep quiet. That's not information I need to share with you. As in another narration, right? He says, in addition to it, why it's not noble. قال لأنه إن كان صغيرا استحقروه وإن كان كبيرا استهرموه. He says because if he is too young, they'll look down on him. And if he's too old, they'll consider it to be irrelevant. So they ask him, how old are you? And this is why are people asking? Because he wants to know, are you younger than me or older than me? If you're younger than me, I don't need to listen to you. If you're older than me, maybe you're a sheikh, then I'll listen to you. If you're too old, what do you know? You're so detached, right? You're so out of it. You're so disconnected. What do you know? We need young blood. So you never win. You're either young or too young, and then you don't have experience, you don't have knowledge, you don't have this, or you're too old. So it's better that you do what? Not tell them. Okay? You can guess if you want, but you don't tell anything, right? Inshallah, a couple of points, inshallah, and then we will stop. He says, they say about him, كان قد جزأ الليل ثلاثة أجزاء. He had divided his night into three parts. The first third is one he is authoring and writing. The second third is when he is praying, and the third third is when he sleeps, rahimahullah. So this is how he has divided his night. He sits and he writes 1/3 of the night. That is every night. Ramadan is going to be exception, of course, but every night he would write 1/3 of the night, then prays the other third, and then he sleeps, rahimahullah. So he gives his body what it needs. He writes and he seeks knowledge, but also he needs to do what? His ibadah. And so you can find, rahimahullah, that he had this very good balance in giving his body what it needs, giving his mind what it needs, and Muslims what they need through writing books, but also his soul what it needs through the worship of Allah Azza wa Jal. This one, subhanAllah, is amazing. I don't know where he found the time for it, but he says he used to finish the Quran in Ramadan 60 times. Now, I don't know. That is very, very difficult and very, very tight, but maybe Allah Azza wa Jal had blessed his time. Now, it's not impossible to finish the Quran each day. I'm going to tell you. But it requires that you be doing nothing else. Right? But you can. You believe me? You can. Like physically, actually you can. I mean, people have done it, right? And if you read the Quran, I think that, I mean, I found something on YouTube where a person was reading the Quran and it was just fast. And it took about 16 hours, 17 hours, but it's continuous. So it's physically possible. Physically possible. If you're not doing nothing else, right? And you have the power, Allah had given you this power, and importantly, the concentration. To be able to sit the entire day and do nothing but reading the Quran, he can finish it every single day. So let's say at least he finished the Quran 30 times. That is something. That is something. So when Ramadan comes, and maybe you know, we're on the doorsteps of Ramadan. When Ramadan comes, you find that al-Shafi'i, subhanallah, takes it to the next level. Takes it really to the next level, where he knows that this Ramadan is for Allah's worship and for that dedication, so he gives it all of his time. I know we're not living in the same time, we're not the same person as a Shafi'i, but that should inspire us to do what? More. More. So if maybe my habit, and if I don't have a habit, by the way, of reading the Quran yet, I should take it up now. Because now you'll be getting ready, inshallah, for Ramadan. So you don't want to wait till Ramadan and then you start reading the Quran. That'd be difficult. So start right now and start with 5 ayahs a day, 10 ayahs a day, 1 page a day, so that inshallah by the time Ramadan comes, you're able to do 1 juz easily or 2 juz easily, whatever your portion or ability is. But try to do it inshallah from now, so that it'll be easier for you bi'idhnillah azza wa jal. The last thing inshallah that we will say, he says al-Shafi'i rahimahullah came and he was visiting one of the quarters of the children of Harun al-Rashid. So Harun al-Rashid was the Khalifa, and one of these quarters had his children being taught. They had special tutors and they were teaching them. They will teach them Quran, they'll teach them hadith, they'll teach them grammar, they'll teach them poetry and this. So special tutors for the children of the Khalifa. So he came into one of those quarters, and then the person who brought him in, he said, so and so, or these people are the tutors of the Khalifa. Can you give them an advice? Because they're teaching who could be potentially the future caliphs, the future khulafa. Can you give the advice to the tutors, because they are responsible for the future, possibly the future khalifa? He says to them, let the first thing that you do in order to reform the children of the Amirul Mu'mineen is fixing yourself. He says, if you want to fix them as a teacher, and this is good for all teachers, including parents. He says, if you want to fix them, let the first thing to do when you want to fix them is fixing yourself. Because فَإِنَّ أَعْيُنَهُمْ مَعْقُودَةٌ بِعَيْنِكَ. He says, they see through your eyes. I mean, their eyes are linked to your eyes, which is really true. Their eyes are linked to your eyes. فَالْحَسَنُ عِنْدَهُمْ مَا تَسْتَحْسِنُ. He says, what is beautiful in their eyes is what is beautiful in yours. Right? Right? It says, consider that. It says, like they see the world through your eyes. So what is beautiful to them is what is beautiful to you. And what is ugly to them is what is ugly to you. Because you're teaching them what is beautiful and what is not by your behavior. Before you speak, by your behavior. Beauty and ugliness, they see, they channel through you. Right? علمهم كتاب الله. He says, teach them the book of Allah. وَلَا تُكْرِهْهُمْ عَلَيْهِ فَيَمَلُّوهُ وَلَا تَتْرُكْهُمْ مِنْهُ فَيَهْجَرُوهُ. He says, and don't force them to learn it so that they'll hate it. And don't let them abandon it so that they'll forget it. And that again is what? Wise. As that's very wise. It's as if you keep forcing them, learn the book of Allah, learn the Quran. And the Quran for some people becomes like punishment. It's like, you cannot leave. No, you can't leave the house. No, you can't play. No, you can't eat. Certainly read the Quran. The way that we want to introduce the Quran to our children is really like a chore, like punishment, like a burden. And we keep at it in a way that makes them want to run away. It says, لا تكرههم عليه. Don't force them so much that they hate the Quran and they want to run away from it. You gotta find a ways to make them love it. Especially here and now, where they don't understand what they're reading. They're just memorizing. So at least let them know and understand what is it that they're reading. Why are they memorizing it? How is it relevant? How is it helping them? What is Allah going to give them? There should be incentives. But if you simply just force it on them, they're just going to run away. They don't want to read the Quran. And don't do the opposite. Abandon the Quran completely and they'll forget it. They don't even want to. It's not part of their life. But seek a middle path between the two. قال ثم روهم من الشعر عفة. Let them memorize or learn some poetry. And that is what? The decent poetry. ومن الحديث أشرفه. And let them learn the hadith. ولا تخرجهم عن علم إلى غيره حتى يحكموه. He says, don't confuse them with disciplines of knowledge. When you want to teach them something, let them learn it well and then take them to the next step. فإن ازدحام الكلام في السمع مضلة للفهم. Because when you confuse them with a lot of information before they understand it and they digest it, it's going to confuse them. Meaning, so what he's saying is that teach them this and this and that. But don't move on from one subject to the other, from one unit to the other, until they understand the first. Because if they don't understand this and you move them to the next one, they're going to confuse both. So that's his advice. And the most two important things to take from his advice is that if you're a teacher and an educator, your students are a product of who you are. And if you are better in your actions, they inshallah they'll be better in how they behave, because they will behave as you behave. And especially now when reading the Quran and memorizing the Quran, find a way to make it appealing and walk this path where you're not making the Quran so repugnant to them and you're not letting them go away with or get away with not reading it at all or not understanding it at all. But seek a middle path, and you know your own limitations and the limitations of your children. So teach them in a way that they will make them love Islam, love the Quran, and love the words of Allah Azza wa Jalla, and approach it as the words of Allah Azza wa Jalla, and that's why it's valuable. So we'll stop here inshallah. There's a little bit more left from al-Shafi'i, but we'll finish that inshallah next week if Allah allows. Barakallahu feekum. Let me know if you have any comments or additions or questions. I'm here inshallah. So we'll scan the room from here. I don't see any hands. Yeah, please.